The sun glinted off the adobe walls of the Navarro family home, nestled in the coastal New Mexico town of Puerto Escondido, where the air carried the tang of salt and sage. The courtyard buzzed with mourners gathered for Diego Navarro's memorial, their voices mingling with the clink of clay pots and the rustle of mesquite branches overhead. Elise Navarro, 40, stepped through the arched gate, her calloused hands cradling a hand-thrown ceramic urn, its glaze shimmering with deep blues and ochres, a tribute to her late uncle, who taught her the art of clay. Her dark eyes held a cautious hope, softened by the lines of a life spent shaping pots and dreams. Beside her, Rosa, her 17-year-old apprentice, clutched a sketch pad, her earnest gaze darting over the crowd. "This is beautiful, Ms. Elise," Rosa said, her voice hushed. Elise forced a smile, but her chest tightened. "Let's hope they think so," she murmured. "Like I never left, and yet," Elise muttered as they wove through the courtyard, expecting a nod, a wave, anything. Instead, her cousin Mateo, 28, held court near a fountain, his slick hair catching the light as he boasted about turning Diego's pottery studio into a global brand. His tailored jacket and animated gestures drew a crowd of cousins and aunts, their laughter loud and unearned. Elise's mother, Carmen, fussed over Mateo, adjusting his collar like he was a prince. "Hi, Mama," Elise said, her voice soft but clear, offering a tentative smile. Carmen's eyes flicked up, her nod brief before she turned back to Mateo's tale of revolutionizing ceramics. The dismissal stung, sharper than the desert wind. Rosa's voice broke the silence, small and uncertain. "Ms. Elise, where do we sit?" Elise scanned the courtyard, tables laden with tamales and luminarias, every chair occupied by relatives swapping stories. Her breath caught. No space for them. Carmen caught her gaze and waved dismissively toward a weathered bench by the kiln shed, its wood splintered from years of neglect. "Oh, Elise, you and Rosa can sit there," she said, her tone light, as if offering a favor. "It's quieter." Elise's heart sank, the urn growing heavy in her hands. She set it on a table, its intricate glaze unnoticed among plastic cups and half-eaten plates, and guided Rosa to the bench, its creak a quiet protest. A memory surfaced, raw and vivid. Elise, 22, in Diego's studio, glazing pots late into the night, her savings covering the rent when sales dipped. Mateo had skipped shifts, chasing art fairs and parties. Yet her parents had praised his potential at family dinners, their eyes skimming past her. "I've been their foundation," Elise thought, her voiceover steady but weighted. "Rent, repairs, late nights. But today, I'm just the shadow they forgot to invite." Rosa opened her sketch pad, sketching the urn's curves, but her eyes lingered on the lively tables. "Why don't they see us?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Elise smoothed Rosa's braid, her fingers steady despite the ache within. "Some people only notice what shines loudest," she said, her voice gentle but firm. She'd come for Diego, for Rosa, for the faint hope of belonging. But the courtyard's warmth felt staged, its glow reserved for others. Elise stayed, her resolve wavering but unbroken. The urn a silent testament to a bond her family couldn't erase. The pottery studio in Puerto Escondido was Elise Navarro's refuge, its adobe walls cool against the July heat, the air thick with the earthy scent of wet clay. Sunlight slanted through high windows, catching the dust motes as Elise, 40, guided Rosa's hands on the potter's wheel. Rosa, her 17-year-old apprentice, furrowed her brow, shaping a wobbly face, her sketch pad propped nearby with drawings of desert blooms. "Keep your elbows in, Rosa," Elise said, her voice calm, her callous fingers steadying the clay. "Let it find its center." The wheel hummed, a quiet rhythm in Diego's studio, but the space felt crowded now, cluttered with Mateo's garish designs, neon-glazed bowls and jagged sculptures that screamed for attention. Elise's phone buzzed on the workbench, a text from her mother, Carmen. "Mateo's in over his head. Help us." Another followed, "Please, Elise, call." Elise's jaw tightened. She ignored the phone, her focus on Rosa's progress. "Good," she said, nodding at the vase's gentle curve. "You're getting it." Mateo's always been the spark, Elise thought, her voiceover heavy with memory. Big plans, no roots. I mended his brakes, but I'm done now. Her mind drifted to a spring 6 years ago, when she was 34, wiring funds to cover Mateo's debts from a failed art fair in Santa Fe. He'd promised a ceramic renaissance, only to leave vendors unpaid, his charm evaporating as Elise stepped in, her savings drained to keep the studio afloat. Her parents, Carmen and Javier, had called him visionary at a family barbecue, their praise bypassing Elise's late nights balancing the books. The memory stung, echoing the memorial last month where she and Rosa were relegated to a splinter bench, their presence as unnoticed as the urn she'd crafted for Diego. That evening Elise walked to the town square, its cobblestones lit by string lights for a community meeting. The crowd, artisans, fishermen, shopkeepers, packed the open-air pavilion, their faces etched with worry. Diego's pottery studio, a cultural anchor for Puerto Escondido, faced foreclosure. Carmen stood beside Javier, her voice cracking as she addressed the crowd. Mateo took a loan against the studio, she said, her hands twisting a scarf. For some digital art thing. We didn't know until the bank sent notices. Javier's eyes met Elise's, pleading. You've always saved us, Elise, he said. We need your steady hands now. The crowd turned expectant, as if Elise were the town's potter and fixer rolled into one. Her stomach churned, the weight of their gaze familiar yet heavier. What kind of art thing? She asked, her voice low but firm. A councilman handed her a folder, loan documents detailing a $200,000 debt tied to an NFT venture promising virtual ceramics. Mateo's name sprawled across the pages, and to Elise's shock, so did hers, scrawled as co-signer. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the papers, the sea breeze doing little to cool her rising fury. The signature wasn't hers, too loose, too careless, but it implicated her legally. He forged this, she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Carmen looked away, Javier's shoulders sagging. I'll review it, Elise said, her tone clipped, buying time to process the betrayal. Back in her small apartment, she spread the documents across her dining table, the lamplight harsh. The loan was a disaster, predatory terms, no assets, linked to a collapsed NFT platform Mateo had hyped as the future of art. The studio, Diego's legacy, was now collateral, and Elise's forged signature made her liable. Anger surged, but so did a sharp clarity. Mateo hadn't just risked the studio. He'd stolen her name to do it. She drove to the Navarro family chapel the next night, a small adobe sanctuary where a vigil for Diego was held. The air was thick with copal incense, candles flickering against saint statues. Mateo stood near the altar, his tailored jacket out of place among the mourners. Carmen and Javier sat in the front pew, their faces drawn. Elise didn't wait for pleasantries. She dropped the loan folder on the pew beside Mateo, the thud echoing in the quiet. You forged my signature, she said, her voice steady but searing. You put the studio and me at risk. Mateo smirked unfazed, his eyes glinting in the candlelight. You're the dependable one, Elise, he said, leaning back. The bank bought it. It's just paperwork. Javier cleared his throat, looking at his shoes. Carmen murmured, Don't make a scene, Elise. It's petty to hold grudges. Elise's hands clenched, the old pattern repeating, her work erased, Mateo's recklessness excused. She thought of Rosa, sketching vases at the studio, counting on her to be more than the family scapegoat. This isn't a grudge, she said, her gaze locked on Mateo's. It's theft. She turned to her parents. And I'm done letting you pretend it's not. Carmen's mouth opened, but no words followed. Elise walked out, the chapel's heavy door creaking shut, the night salt air sharp against her skin. She drove back to the studio, Rosa's vase still drying on the rack, a reminder of what she was fighting for. Mateo's forgery wasn't just a betrayal, it was a breaking point. Elise would protect herself and Rosa, no matter what it cost her family's fragile facade. The Puerto Escondido Community Hall stood weathered but proud. its adobe walls absorbing the August sun as a restless crowd filled its cavernous interior. Elise Navarro, 40, stood at a makeshift podium, her calloused hands gripping a stack of documents. Her dark eyes steady despite the knot in her chest. The hall buzzed with townsfolk, artisans with clay-stained aprons, fishermen in faded caps. Families who'd shaped pots at Diego's studio for generations. It come to save the pottery studio, the town's soul, now teetering on the edge of foreclosure due to Mateo's reckless loan. Elise's navy blouse clung to her back, but her voice rang clear, cutting through the murmurs. "This studio is our soul," she said, her gaze sweeping the crowd. "Not a bet for someone's gamble. I won't let it crumble under lies." She opened a binder, its pages a damning chronicle of Mateo's deception. Original studio ledgers detailing Elise's payments for rent and repairs. Bank records proving she was at a pottery workshop in Taos during the loan signing, and a forensic analysis of the forged signature, her name scrawled in Mateo's careless hand. A projector flickered, displaying Rose's sketches of Elise's signature designs, swirling wave patterns, desert bloom motifs, etched into pots that had defined the studio's reputation. "I didn't sign that loan," Elise said, pointing to a time-stamped receipt from Taos. "Mateo did, using my name." The crowd stirred, some nodding, others whispering. The studio wasn't just a business, it was where kids learned to throw clay, where elders glazed stories into bowls. Elise's evidence was their shield. The hall's double doors burst open and Mateo strode in, his tailor jacket sharp against the rustic setting, his grin a polished weapon. "Elise," he drawled, his voice loud enough to draw eyes. "This little show's cute, but sabotage doesn't look good on you." The crowd wavered, doubt creeping in. Mateo turned to them, arms wide. "I'm building Diego's legacy, global markets, NFTs, the future." Elise is just jealous, trying to hog the spotlight. Gasps rippled through the room, a few heads nodding at his charisma. Elise's pulse hammered, but she stood firm, her hands steady on the podium. "Your legacy?" she said, her voice low but slicing. "You forged my signature to fund a scam that's killing the studio." Mateo's laugh echoed, too confident. But before he could spin another tale, Rosa stepped forward, her 17-year-old frame small but fierce. She clutched Diego's old glaze recipe book, its pages brittle, each recipe credited to Elise's meticulous hand. "Ms. Elise built this studio's heart," Rosa said, her voice trembling but resolute. She held up a recipe for a turquoise glaze, Elise's signature hue, dated years before Mateo's involvement. "You can't rewrite her." The crowd erupted, claps, shouts, a few jeers aimed at Mateo. A local journalist scribbled furiously, her camera flashing. Rosa's sketchpad, open to a drawing of Elise at the wheel, passed through the front row, silencing doubters. Mateo's grin cracked, his eyes darting to the exit. Elise clicked to her final slide, a bank email confirming the loan's invalidation due to fraud. Cheers filled the hall, but the victory was fragile. The studio was safe from Mateo's debt, but its overdue bills demanded new funds. As the meeting adjourned, Elise's phone lit up with texts from her parents, Carmen and Javier. "Why drag us through this? You've shamed Mateo. Come talk, we're family." The blame cut deep, but Elise didn't falter. She stayed, shaking hands with neighbors who thanked her, their callous grips a contrast to her family's cold words. "I didn't shatter us," she thought, her voiceover soft but unyielding. "I just stopped gluing the cracks." Later, in the studio's quiet kiln room, Elise knelt by a shelf of Diego's old pots, her hands tracing their curves. One clay jar, unglazed and unassuming, felt heavier than the rest. She lifted its lid, her breath catching at the sight of a leather-bound journal, Diego's handwriting bold on the cover. Inside, a notarized page named Elise the studio's sole heir, dated a month before his death. A note in Diego's scrawl read, "Shape your own path, Elise. You've always been my true artist." Tears welled as she clutched the journal, its weight a lifeline. Diego had seen her late nights, her quiet sacrifices, her love for clay, when her family had turned away. Mateo's lies had pushed her to this brink, but Diego's truth gave her strength to stand. The journal's pages whispered of a legacy Elise could still claim, not for her family, but for Puerto Escondido. Rosa's courage, the town's support, the studio's clay-scented air, they were her foundation now. Elise rose, the journal pressed to her chest, her resolve a quiet fire. The family's anger and Mateo's fall were heavy, but she wouldn't carry their weight anymore. She'd fight for the studio, for Rosa, for the path Diego had seen in her all along. September's soft light bathed the courtyard of Diego's pottery studio in Puerto Escondido, where the adobe walls glowed warm against a sky streaked with cirrus clouds. Elise Navarro, 40, stood amid a flurry of activity, her calloused hands dusted with clay as she directed a group of teens hammering wooden frames for new pottery wheels. The studio was transforming into a community arts cooperative, a haven for local youth to shape clay and stories. Rosa, her 17-year-old apprentice, knelt nearby, painting a mural of swirling ocean waves on a workbench, her sketchpad open to a design of cacti in bloom. "This is gonna be epic, Ms. Elise," Rosa said, her eyes bright with pride. Elise's heart lifted, her dark eyes reflecting the courtyard's vibrancy. "Diego knew family was who shapes with you," she thought, her voiceover warm and resolute. "Not who claims your work." The cooperative was Elise's answer to the studio's near collapse, a legacy rooted in community, not Mateo's hollow ambitions. Puerto Escondido had rallied, fishermen donated clay from local riverbeds, artisans offered kills, and parents signed up their kids for workshops. Mr. Ortiz, a local sculptor with a salt and pepper beard, hauled in cedar planks for shelves, his deep laugh echoing as he teased Rosa about her mural's bold colors. But amid the progress, a letter arrived from Elise's parents, Carmen and Javier, on paper scented with Carmen's lavender oil. "Join us for brunch," it read. "Let's mentize." Elise's chest tightened, a flicker of hope stirring despite the ache of Mateo's betrayal, and her parents' silence at the community hall. Maybe they'd seen her truth now. With Rosa's encouraging nod, she agreed to go. The Navarro family home felt stifling, its kitchen heavy with the scent of chorizo and regret. Mateo sat at the table, his once slick jacket replaced by a faded hoodie, his charm dulled but persistent. Carmen and Javier flanked him, their smiles strained. "Elise," Carmen began, her voice tentative, "we want to move past this misunderstanding." Before Elise could respond, Mateo leaned forward, his grin forced. "Your cooperative's taking off, huh? I guided you there, you know, pushed you to think big, like I always did." Elise's breath caught, disgust rising like bile. He hadn't guided her, he'd forged her name, risked her legacy, and stood by as her parents dismissed her. Javier nodded, as if Mateo's lie held weight. "We're glad you're both shining," he said, oblivious to the theft. Elise pushed her chair back. It scraped sharp against the tile. "You didn't guide me," she said, her voice low but unyielding. "You broke what I built, and I'm done pretending it's family." Carmen's eyes widened, Javier's hand stilled on his coffee mug, but no one spoke. Elise walked out. The screen doors creak a final chord. The sea breeze cooled her face, carrying the scent of salt and sage. She drove back to the studio, where Rosa and Mr. Ortiz were glazing pots under string lights. "How'd it go?" Rosa asked, her sketchpad tucked under her arm. Elise shook her head, but her smile was steady. "Not my home anymore. This is." In the cooperative's workshop, Elise mounted a page from Diego's journal on the adobe wall. Its words, "Shape your own path, Elise," a testament to her worth. Mr. Ortiz hammered the frame steady, his nod a quiet affirmation. Rosa added a small clay star beside it, her fingers smudged with glaze. The cooperative wasn't just a studio, it was a family, built with those who saw her. Elise looked out at the courtyard, wheels spinning, pots drying, kids laughing. Her family's shadow faded here. She was crafting something true, and that was enough. 8 months later, the arts cooperative in Puerto Escondido bloomed under a May sky, its adobe arches framing a courtyard alive with creation. Children glazed pots at wooden tables, their hands smudged with turquoise and ochre while the sea breeze carried laughter and the faint clink of clay. Elise Navarro, 40, stood by a kiln, her dark eyes warm as she watched Rosa, her 17-year-old apprentice, teach a pottery class. Rosa's voice, confident now, guided a group of kids shaping bowls, her braid swinging as she demonstrated a steady pull. That morning, the town had unveiled a mural on the cooperative's outer wall. Elise Navarro, shaper of stories, its bold letters curling around a painted wave. Elise's heart swelled, not with pride, but with the quiet certainty of being seen. I thought family was who you're tied to, she thought, her voiceover soft and sure. Now I know it's who you craft with. A young boy, his apron dusted with clay, pointed to the framed journal page from Diego, mounted in the workshop. What's that, Ms. Elise? He asked, his eyes wide. Elisa's smile deepened, her fingers brushing the frame's cedar edge. It's about shaping what's yours, not what's expected, she said, her voice carrying a truth hard one. The boy nodded, returning to his pot, as if the words had settled into his hands. A memory flickered. Elise, 15, firing pots with Diego in the studio, their laughter mingling with the kiln's heat, his voice calling her his true artist. Back in the present, her gaze softened, anchored by that bond. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mateo. Sorry, Elise. Can we talk? The words were flimsy, a half-hearted gesture. She deleted it, her fingers steady, and turned to Rosa and Mr. Ortiz, who was carving a cedar sculpture nearby. The courtyard stretched before her, pots drying on racks, kids sculpting under arches, the mural glowing in the sun. Rosa waved, her sketchpad tucked under her arm, while Mr. Ortiz's nod was a quiet pillar of support. Elise didn't need her family's validation anymore. Her parents' silence since the brunch, Mateo's hollow apology, they were echoes of a past she'd outgrown. She wasn't invisible. She was whole. The sea breeze whispered, carrying the scent of sage and clay. Elise stood still, the cooperative's hum wrapping around her. The mural, the kids, the pots, they were her legacy, shaped with those who stayed. I'm here, she thought, her voice over a whisper of triumph. And that's enough.